Wow, where does that start? Raised in a good Presbyterian family, was fortunate to have two wonderful parents that also happened to be very involved in a little Presbyterian church in Oklahoma City. I didn't realize at the time, but the fact that I was raised in that church and around those people was sort of the first evidence that God was active and present in my life, not only through my folks, but through dozens of other people. Graduated from high school and then did what a lot of kids do and ran as far away from God as I could get. Went to OU pretty much through undergraduate, and also I'd come back and go to church, hang out with my folks, let my mom do my laundry all the time. It really wasn't until I got into law school, just coincidentally was dating a girl who attended the Catholic Church, and she invited me to go to Mass with her. And this would have been in the early 80s. I really, believe it or not, felt God calling out to me in the Catholic Church. And about the time I graduated from law school, I converted and became a Catholic. And sort of for the first time, I had my own faith. Instead of having my parents' faith, I had my own faith. Got married, we had kids, and in 1992 moved to Edmond. And some of the first people that I met, or we met at the time, was Rick and Terry McGee, who are members of this church, and invited us to come to First Pres, and ended up joining First Pres in 1992. And through a lot of people in this church and a lot of circumstances, I realized that what I was supposed to be doing was trying to lead a life that was pleasing to God. I haven't done that all the time, but I've always felt like God has forgiven me when I didn't, and I keep asking for forgiveness all the time because I have to. And this is true, I think, for a lot of people. When we're young, our parents are the dumbest people in the world, and then as we get older and we start having to encounter, adult things, parenting things, we think, wow, my parents kind of did do things the right way, or they really were trying to lead a life pleasing to God, but I never appreciated it at the time. And once I was really more invested in having my own faith, it made me look over and say, hey, my parents were really trying to do things the right way. I was very fortunate in that respect because a lot of people don't have, that, kind of upbringing. Having your own faith sort of means you have to be responsible for what you do, and not responsible just to other people, but responsible to God. I mean, that's the definition of being an adult, is being prepared to say, okay, God, I really messed up here. What do I need to do differently? Or, okay, God, what should I be doing here? And I was in state government, and so the work was kind of limited to, obviously working with state agencies and things of that nature. And once I got into private practice in the mid-'80s, where I could kind of do what I wanted to do, it made me realize that there are a lot of people in the world that need a lot of help. And my folks basically spent their whole lives, helping other people, and a lot, and that really rubbed off on me. And I realized, well, I've been fortunate to have good education and been able to work. This is not about me at all. It shouldn't be. And although, of course, we all make it about ourselves, and I'm very, very guilty of that. But I've tried from time to time to help other people, and being an attorney, people think we're smarter than we are, and we're not. That we're just regular folks. But I could give you a lot more information about all the ways that God has impacted my life through a lot of people in this church, including you and him behind the camera there, and a bunch of other adults and kids. Heck, if it weren't for God, I wouldn't have Will Jones in my life. And that's kind of an inside joke, but Will came through the youth group 3 or 4 years ago, and I really didn't know him very well. And literally on the last day of that semester, he shot a video. They were videoing the guys and girls, just, what are they going to do this summer, this or that. And Will's comment during that video was that he wanted to have coffee with me. And I thought, what? He wants to have coffee? I couldn't believe it. And because I knew him a little bit, but I didn't, we just had spent most Wednesday nights hanging out in youth group like we are now. It took us about a year before it actually happened. And then it's like, okay, a few more months and we did it again. Getting together, we started having breakfast like every couple of weeks. It's one of the favorite things I get to do, and that's 100% God bringing him into my life. That the secret to discipling, at least from because I'm not a Bible scholar or anything like that, or I've never been trained or anything like that, but or to do something like that, the key is just being present, just being consistent. And I was thinking about that, how that all started for me. I don't know how many years ago it was, probably more than 10 years ago. A friend of mine, a member of this church named John Delaney, I'll blame him for this. Another fine lawyer, by the way, but a really good guy. They were looking for somebody to help out with middle school, Sunday school. And he asked me, and I said, sure, and I'll do that. And I think my kids were probably I'm sure they were past that age by that time, so I wasn't doing it to hang out with my own kids. And so he and I and some other folks did it for a couple of years, and then he quit. And I thought, well, I'm not quite ready to quit yet. And so, or I didn't feel like God was telling me to do something else. And so I kept doing it. And I had some neat experiences connecting. It wasn't necessarily even connecting about the Bible or about Jesus. It was just connecting. Having someone, come up to you after Sunday school and say, I'm having a really tough time with my parents going through a divorce. And I don't remember where that was. I went through a divorce. I don't know where I was at that time, but I was, I kind of was able to encourage this person. But Brian Wagner was the youth director here at the time, and I remember asking him, you guys do something. I wasn't participating in Wednesday night activities then, and I remember asking him, what if I came on Wednesday just to hang out? Maybe I could get to know some of these kids better. And he said, sure, show up. And I just started coming, and I made connections with some guys that I'm still connected with on some basis. As an older person, there's nothing more exciting than to have a young person acknowledge you. Just to say your name, just to say hello. And that's all it takes. If someone says hello to me, I'm done. I'll stay forever. I don't know when. This is obviously a number of years I started reading, and I remember kind of reading all the way through Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, and I got to Romans, and I came across a passage in Romans 5. It talks about rejoicing in our sufferings, and it's like, gosh, why would we do that? And the next verse is, suffering produces endurance. In some places it says perseverance, but endurance. And endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And where does our hope come from? Well, our hope comes from God, who's given us the Holy Spirit. And I was going through a difficult time, and I was thinking, okay, what's one reason why I could be going through this? Well, it's just to get through it, just to endure. I realized, when you're in the middle of something bad, you're not thinking, oh, this is great. I'm learning character. Well, nobody wants to do that. When I kind of got through it, it made me realize, if you try to get through something in the right way, and we're going to fail maybe as often as we succeed, but if you try to get through something in a way that you hope is pleasing to God, then you hopefully and probably will sense that. The old PCUSA has a daily reading lectionary that's available online, which is super convenient, because I can go to their website and for June 23rd tells me exactly what to read. And that's like, great, I'm lazy. I don't have to go hunt something down or read a book or something. It's right there. It tells me what to read. They recommend, for whatever reason, I've never researched this, reading the same Psalms frequently. And I've ended up reading basically the last 5 Psalms, 145 to 150, a whole bunch of times. And the last 4 verses, I think it's the 147th Psalm, are, his delight is not in the strength of the Lord, nor his pleasure in the speed of the runner. But the Lord takes pleasure in those who fear him, and those who hope in his steadfast love. Well, we all, at least I do, and I think a lot of people do, feel a sense of, well, I'm not worthy unless I'm doing something. Or I'm not worthy unless I'm good at something. or if I'm successful at this, or especially living in this town in Edmond, gosh, if I'm not achieving something, or I'm not the fastest or the smartest or the prettiest or the most handsome, I'm not. But I've read that so many times, it's at least given me comfort that it's not about that at all. It's about hoping in what God has in store and what He's ultimately going to do. And that's been a great sense of comfort for me. In my life, at least, God has revealed Himself through dozens and dozens of people that I've come across, many at this church, some not. And we all have a sense that, or I have a sense, somebody else has got things better than I do, or I'm the only one that has a problem, or this is only my issue. And if you spend some time in serious conversation with someone, a Christian, where you can sort of get below the surface level, you're going to find out that everybody's had the same situation. They've all been through something. They can tell you how God has helped them get through something, or how God has shown Himself through somebody else in a difficult situation. If we don't take the time to share those things with someone, how are we going to know? The primary reason that I come and have been coming on Wednesday nights is for one reason. And I'm secretly sharing my testimony, but what I'm really trying to do is of course I spend time with guys, let the guys know that what they think is the way they're supposed to live via social media, or what they hear is not what's important. You're trying to share, my experiences with them, but they don't do the dumb things that I did. It's basically to give them sort of the comfort to know that don't worry about that. There's a saying I learned as a younger person, not young enough, but that I spent my life climbing up the ladder of success only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. As a young person, a young professional, I was chasing after all the things that we chase after. The absolute key to attempting to lead a life that's pleasing to God, 100%. And I want them to hear that because there's so many messages out there that are no, you got to do this, you got to look like this, you got to achieve this, and none of that's true. It's all it might bring you temporary happiness, but nothing in the long. I used to wonder how many times I could sin before Jesus would give up on me, and I've sort of come to believe that's not possible. And it's not that I'm not capable of sinning, it's that His forgiveness is far greater than my anything I could do.